Welcome back to Orange Hat Reviews, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. So, Mystery Review episode 93. Today I have a guest with me, like I did back when I did Mara and Boondock Saints Mystery Review. Say hello, Stig. How you doing?
Hi. I'm doing quite well. It's not too cold in Norway now anymore either, so snow is almost gone and it's getting warmer.
Yeah. We're getting hit with a bunch of rain right now. Nice little rain going through. So for those of you who follow me on Twitter, I do hints throughout the week leading up to the mystery review. And the first hint was family to 46. Now, if you watch my streams and you pay attention to the playlists, this one is a family to the 46th mystery review, which was Revenge of the Sith. And hello, Rackety, Neozoic, and Vanya. And so this one is indeed a Star Wars movie. Now, the other hints were I'll see you in hell. They're all quotes. You may start your landing. Alert all commands. And luminous beings are we. So Stig actually had an idea of which movie it might be. You got it right that it was in the original trilogy.
I know. I was ashamed and deleted the tweet too because I could have sworn it was. I had a Streisand effect, and I've done this before. I keep thinking that line was spoken in Yoda's hut when he dies.
Yeah.
So it's another one I have is the opening crawl, which is a long time ago. Yep. I keep thinking it's a long time ago.
I think originally it may have been, but I'm not sure. You're right. It's a long time ago in a galaxy far away.
Yeah. So see, I mix them. I keep thinking it's a long time ago in a galaxy far away, not far away.
Yeah.
And I've been doing this since the 80s, so I'm probably retarded.
Mm-hmm. I'll see you in hell. Empire Strikes Back or something. Yeah. But that line actually, to go into expanded universe, created an expansion in the lore. Because, yes, hell is an earthly concept. However, they did say in the books that Corellia has hells, or has a hell.
Yeah, and they did a little bit like that, when the bad kick from Luke in Return of the Jedi, that created the Force kick.
Yeah.
It did. Let's be honest. But if you can explain it in a good way,
exactly,
it's fine. But really, it was bad camera work.
Yeah.
Bad angle.
So
classic movie mistakes, which most movies have.
Mm-hmm. So in 1980, this movie came out, and George Lucas and his crew and Irvin Kershner managed to do something that is very rare in Hollywood at the time, which is surpassing the original blockbuster with its sequel. And this film, very beloved by a lot of OT fans, folks. This film actually is in contention with favorite between Return of the Jedi and Empire Strikes Back. So
this was actually the first Star Wars movie I ever saw.
Nice.
Rented it on VHS at a local video store place, but they never had episode 4. I know they had it, but someone had always rented it, so I couldn't get to it. So I watched 5, 6, and then I caught 4 when it was on TV, and
Nice.
I recorded it there. But that was years later. But yeah, Empire Strikes Back was my first on-screen Star Wars experience.
Nice. Mine was, or actually, my dad had the original trilogy taped on from movies, or double VCR kind of tape thing.
Yeah.
And he taped all 3 of them back to back. And I was 2. I remember this. When I was 2, I watched these movies back to back. I remember the fear, the joy, the elation, the wonder, the excitement, all of it of watching these movies.
I think kids can understand the basics a little bit due to the nature of the music, because George Lucas said you can watch the movies, with no dialogue.
Oh yeah.
Intent.
And also, it's a very visual movie too. Darth Vader, all black, villain. You immediately understand that is a villain.
Yeah, and the music that comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
So he's, which is that's his strength, the visual stuff and the symbolism and the symbolism kind of flies over people's heads sometimes.
Yeah.
But his weakness though is maybe the dialogue.
Yeah. I mean, the opening or the dialogue actually in the original trilogy, a lot of people love to do the comparisons between the original and the prequel trilogy. My defense of it is the prequel trilogy was a golden age of that universe, of that galaxy.
Yeah.
It was then done later in the original trilogy where everything became more tightened with dialogue and whatnot.
I saw something cool that I never thought about. You know how Anakin tends in the prequels tends to have very very blunt lines, right?
Yeah.
And they seem off. But
it's an awkward kid.
But try hearing those lines in Darth Vader's voice.
Exactly. That's what a lot of people also.
All of a sudden they're not so bad because he's talking like Vader did.
Mm-hmm. Didn't Star Wars have their own equivalent of the underworld, Chaos? Chaos was, the way I understand it, more tormented than hell. It was kind of like a limbo of a sense, or in a sense, where Darth Bane, after he failed with essence transfer, he's in limbo. He can't die because his consciousness was completely wiped out. Oblivion, essentially. Well, there's Force Ghosts, so there's got to be hell or heaven somewhere. Conceptually similar, yes. So we get the crawl, it's a dark time for the rebellion, although the Death Star has been destroyed. So basically, get it quick. The Imperials made landfall on Yavin, causing the rebels to flee. And they managed to flee very well, even though they defended against the base, but the base was eventually overtook. And Luke Skywalker is the face of the rebellion right now. And so that's in the crawl. They say he leads, or freedom fighters led by Luke Skywalker, and they found the remote world of Hoth. And Darth Vader is obsessed with finding Skywalker and has dispatched thousands of remote probes to the far reaches of space, which we see an Imperial Star Destroyer doing as soon as the crawl is done. And we get...
Side note, Luke leading the rebellion is actually not accurate.
Exactly.
Because he's, he's
the face, he's not the leader.
Yeah, he's leading it outwards, kind of. But you have, is it General Riken?
Yep, you had Riken as the military leader.
Yeah, both him and Mon Mothma and Crix Madine.
Yep.
Dodonna and Leia outrank him. Probably Admiral Akbar too.
Oh yeah, General and Admirals. Well, Admiral outranks almost everybody military.
Yeah, he became the poster boy Kenobi said Anakin would be.
Mm-hmm. He's the mascot for the company, according to Riot. It's hard of which of the two is the best, Empire and Revenge of the Sith, which is iconic because both films are considered to be the darker Star Wars films. Exactly, and as Irvin Kershner, because when I was watching this, folks, I watched it with the audio commentary of Irvin Kershner, George Lucas, and Dennis Muren, and Carrie Fisher. And Irvin Kershner had a very difficult job because this movie is not to have a real beginning or a real end because it's the middle chapter. And I will be going over a lot of Irvin Kershner's thoughts from the commentary. So we end up on Hoth, and Luke gets hit by a Wampa after seeing a meteorite hitting the ground. Now, I don't think that was specifically the probe droid, because only one probe droid landed on Hoth. and they already showed that one crashing. It could have just been an errant meteor. As we know, there is an asteroid belt near Hoth.
Yeah, I think it was just a regular meteorite, because otherwise the probe would probably have spotted them with the scanners.
Oh, yeah. And then he gets nailed by the Wampa. Now, the scenes on Hoth were shot on a stage for the base, but outside scenes were shot at, how do you pronounce this? It's in Norway. The Hardangerloken, or Glacier in Finza.
Oh,
Norway.
is it Hardangerjökull?
Yeah, that one.
Yep. Yeah,
the glacier in Norway.
It's directly east and slightly north of Bergen, which is one of our bigger cities.
Oh, nice. And folks, when you see these people out in the snow, and when you see Mark Hamill out in the snow, and when people say it was a hell to shoot, this was a hell to shoot.
Yep.
They had to dig paths out from the door because it was like 6 feet or 8 feet of snow or something like that, just to get. They were filming at the door of the hotel.
Yeah,
just to get shots of.
I can confirm this because I've been in weather like this ever since I was a kid. I grew up in it. So you have to go out and shovel snow, otherwise the driveway will be covered in a lot, and so you have to regularly do that. And shooting a movie in those conditions, I mean, just keeping the lens dry alone, right? With all the snow flowing around and landing on the lens. And
sorry about that. I muted myself. But yes, so this movie was also one where they went heavy with the stop motion animation, folks, which is where they film a second, stop, position it next, film a second, stop. Kind of like how they did 1933's King Kong. This was done heavily with the Tauntauns, as you can actually see, even when they up the quality of the film, even to 4K, you can see how these creatures are running, that it's stop motion because of the funny way that they go.
It's like it's skipping ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a sense.
I always thought with the Tauntauns it added to it because it looked like they had their own unique movement.
Mm-hmm.
But
that actually works
with
for
other things. It's not always that good.
And that actually works later on because of the game that they made, Jedi Knight Jedi Academy. When you go to Hoth, you can actually ride a Tauntaun. They actually got the movement very well done.
Yes, that's actually one of my. Actually, it probably is my favorite Star Wars game.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've beaten it 20 times.
Same here.
Replay value,
Yeah. And also, a lot of people will notice that Mark Hamill looks a lot more different in this film than the first one. It was because he got into a car accident, which actually was more beneficial because it adds the scar value of his time in the rebellion because of the spatial scars on his face, plus the exposure to the cold weather outside.
Yeah.
So Han returns, and he has to leave because of the bounty on his head. Now, it turns out, when he says the bounty we ran into on Ord Mantell, turns out he ran into several bounty hunters on Ord Mantell, including not just Boba Fett, but also Dengar and IG-88 C or A, one of those two. But it wasn't B. But, so he gets into the fight with Leia. I love that line. Or I would just as soon kiss a Wookiee. I can arrange that. You could use a good kiss. I mean, that is one of the funniest lines in the film, folks.
Well, a banter like that, which is semi-hostile,
mm-hmm.
but with a little bit of humor, can be very entertaining.
Oh, yeah.
Which maybe it's something that was lacking in the prequels.
Yes, that actually you do, or I fully agree with you there. So,
Kenobi and Anakin had a little bit of banter, but it was kind of basically it made Padme stale. The lack of it,
Hmm.
a little bit.
Now, one of the things that Irvin Kershner was very hell bent on was character driven or character expansion and character lore for these characters, and he really went very heavy with Chewie and the droids. He wanted them to have a little bit more screen time, even though they were more comic relief. And he did it in a way that this movie wanted a slightly more serious tone, but still managed to put enough elements of comedy into it that didn't overtake it. He wanted humor, but not so much that it imbalances the film, as they said. The droids were taken out of the forefront, but still managed to have integral parts. So then we get to the Wampa Cave, where Luke has to, or uses the Force for the first time. And the original, folks, because I am going to do slight comparisons, the original, he reaches out, to get it, he cuts out. You see the monster come from the back, and then coming up forward, he slices off the arm, and then he runs out. The special edition made a better version of the monster. However, I wish they would have made it a little bit more matching to the one we saw that was a puppet.
Yeah, the puppet was just rolled towards Luke, right, on wheels.
I believe so. Yes.
So you just saw some of it. There was also supposed to be a Wampa attack in Echo Base, and you see a little bit of a leftover in it when 3PO is walking past the door, and the door is kind of shaking.
Yep.
Because the Wampas are trying to get in, because they locked them in there.
Yep.
So that stuff was probably cut for practical reasons.
There was also a deleted scene where he rips the caution tape or the caution sticker off of the door, and a couple of snowtroopers go by. The door opens. You see a Wampa arm come out, pull one of them in. They cover it a lot better in the N64 game, Shadows of the Empire, where Dash Rendar actually has to escape Echo Base.
I think some of it is in the Empire Strikes Back comic.
Yeah.
I seem to remember Rebels shooting some Wampas inside the base there.
Yeah. There is a lot of people who want to actually see a kind of like horror movie of Star Wars, where when they were when the Rebels were trying to get into build the base, Wampas kept on coming in, kind of like an Abominable Snowman kind of horror movie element.
Yeah, I mean, you could do one set after as well. Someone having found Echo Base, which is abandoned, and you could have like a alien-ish movie where they get picked off one by one and they have to kind of isolate themselves inside to survive, and then maybe make a run for the ship.
Yeah. Now, me personally, I like the special edition, but I also do acknowledge how well the original was done. What are your thoughts on this question from me, Zoe?
If I had to pick, the original every day of the week, because I enjoy movies that were made the way they were back in the day. However, the special edition is closer to Lucas's vision. He said so himself. However, not all of the special effects are that good. In this movie, they're mostly terrific.
Yes.
But in that certain band in Return of the Jedi that was in the special edition, that one's not good.
Yeah, I had problems with that too. That's one, or I'll watch it, but it's like
it looks like they copied and pasted the singer in from a Pixar movie.
Yeah, I was going to say that's like or they managed to improve the effects to them, because they did the special edition, and then they did the early 2000s re-specialized editions.
I saw one interview a long time ago, and I cannot find it again. because Lucas has done so many interviews. But he was gonna add a scene showing Boba Fett crawling out of the Sarlacc,
Yeah.
but he ran out of time. But in the same interview I saw, he mentioned that he wanted to put Mara Jade in Jabba's palace in the background, but he had to shoot that too, and he basically didn't have time. If I can find that interview, though, that would shut down a bunch of shills.
Yeah. So we then get to Luke escaping the cave, and he sees Obi-Wan, and he gets the message to go to Yoda on Dagobah. And that's when, Han finds him, because Han decided to take a Tauntaun, which he was warned, your Tauntaun will freeze to death while you're out there. And he's like, well, then I'll see you in hell. Now, the Tauntaun voice, this is from Ben Burt. The Tauntaun's voice was an Asian sea otter named Mota. The sound was pitched down to give it a more deeper look for the size of it, because these things are like 2 feet at the most. And I really I thought that was a pretty interesting sound that the Tauntauns made, to be completely honest.
I did not think that was an otter, because I've seen otters. I actually thought it was more like a deer, but I got it wrong.
Yeah, but so they had to close the shield doors, and Chewie's howl was something that Irvin Kershner definitely wanted, because it shows that Chewie was extremely upset because Han is out there. Now, they did do a very earthly concept, folks. When Han cuts open the Tauntaun to put Luke in there to keep him warm, that is actually something that has been proven to have been done in even prehistory times, where they would use the blood from a fresh kill, or even the skins from a fresh kill, or the body of a fresh kill of an animal, to stay close so that they could stay warm, which was a nice little interesting touch that they did. And it stinks to high heaven, which is what led to the voice. And I thought they smelled bad on the outside. Now, Rogue Squadron is searching for Han and Luke. The scenery shots where they did the background place for the ships flying through, god damn, those were great shots, man. So what did you think of the establishment placement shots for the background, the environment, and whatnot?
You mean in the hangar and stuff?
No, when Rogue Squadron's flying out looking for him.
Oh yeah, it looks like home.
Oh yeah.
I actually wasn't impressed. It looked normal,
Well, for you it would, yeah. And so they find him, and the one that they actually have, Rogue 2, is Zev, Z-E-V. I love the names that they have for characters. Dak, D-A-K, Zev. It's like, how many of you guys have 3-letter names, Jek Porkins, J-E-K. So Mark is in the back of the tank, and apparently he almost died because they had a glass over it that shattered before he was going to be put in, and there were just shards of humongous glass that went in, and they were heavy, and so it's like, oh my god, if he would have been put in there like a few seconds later, he would have been diced. So yes, Mark Hamill apparently lives another day because of a small delay in him getting into the tank. And we then get the kiss, as everybody loves to freaking bring. A lot of haters love to bring this up. The kiss and whatnot. It's like, Lucas has such a depraved mind. It's like, first off, those two didn't know that they were related. Secondly, she did it only to make Han jealous because he pissed her off.
Yeah, so it was either him or Chewie or the droid.
Yeah.
But
so which one are you gonna kiss?
Yeah.
Right?
Actually, between those, I'd probably kiss Mark Hamill too. But Also, where was the Bacta spray from the Mandalorian?
Mhm.
That would have healed Luke immediately. The Bacta tank was redundant.
All right.
Just spray him.
Yeah. So we then get the news of a visitor outside the base, and C-3PO is brilliant in this room because he's like, I'm fluent in 6 million forms of communication. This is not used by the Alliance. It could be an Imperial code. Well, they're not willing to take any chances, so they send out Han, Chewie,
Which
and
is, funnily enough, one of the few times they actually listened to 3PO.
Yep. In this movie, he actually, or Han does listen to him. He just doesn't want him to know that he listens to him.
Yep.
So they go out, you get the engagement with the probe droid, and it self-destructs upon engagement. And when Han says it had some kind of self-destruct, that's what tips Leia off that it was an Imperial probe droid.
I know where that is because it was in it was explained in the Dark Empire comics.
Mm-hmm.
They have a self-destruct thing right under the head, basically on one side. So if they get damaged there, they self-destruct as a safety precaution. So they, so people can't hack their, brains, right?
Yeah, so you could patch into, or as they put it, not hack, but slice into.
Yep.
More violent way of it.
Probably a thing they added to the lore expansively later on.
Yeah.
But that's what the expanded universe was for,
Yep.
Expand.
And so we get or we're brought back to the Empire. How do you establish that there is something bigger than a Star Destroyer? Well, not just the Super Star Destroyer, but you create, or how do you explain that this thing is very much bigger, even though you're dealing with miniature models? You cast a shadow over something you think is so big, and then show the reveal of the Super Star Destroyer, the Executor. Gotta say, that was brilliant thinking on Direction's part. How you see the shadow just falling over these Star Destroyers, and then you see the big one. I'm like, I remember, folks, when I was 2 years old watching The Empire Strikes Back for the first time, I'm like, just like gobsmacked that thing is that big, because I understood the scale, that these things were big, but that thing was just beyond big in my mind. Big Star Destroyer. So what do you think of the Executor? Did you think Vader was compensating for something?
I think they didn't have a Death Star and they needed something big to impose a bigger threat.
Yeah.
Because after we saw the Death Star get blown up, a Star Destroyer does not seem like a big threat.
No, it really doesn't. Plus, in the first movie, you see a Star Destroyer flying up to the Death Star. So
yeah. So I think they needed something because they couldn't do a second Death Star yet.
Yeah, it was still in production.
Yeah. So in the third one, you get that big Star Destroyer and a Death Star.
Yep,
So it's always bigger.
Yep. So Admiral Ozzel, such a cheesy name, but still.
Played Hitler in Indiana Jones 3. That's
right, he did. Yeah. There's a lot of people from the Indiana Jones movies, folks, that were
actually when you say Hitler from, in a kind of like a faraway shot, you see, Goering and Himmler and stuff next to him. That's the other Imperial officers.
Admiral Ozzel, and Captain Pia is reporting the Captain Pia at the time is reporting that they had a lead from the Hoth system. Well, Darth Vader is hearing this and he's like, "That's it. Rebels are there." Because what group would put up a shield generator? Smugglers? No. And, well, Ozzel's pissed off at Piet because he looked like an idiot to Vader. Vader dismissed him. And then ends up killing him because Ozzel came out of Lightspeed too close to it. And I love how he handles it. This basically establishes the Force is not bound by distance because he's on a different, or was he on the same? Yes, they're on the same ship, but he's not close to them. He's in his meditation chamber when he ends up choking the life out of Admiral Ozzel without raising his hand to gesture. He doesn't do that, which shows strength in the Force, or strength in the dark side in this case. What were your thoughts on the death of Ozzel and the promotion of Admiral Piet?
Ozzel deserved it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's as clumsy as he is stupid.
Yeah, he, in a way, might have kept Vader from ending the rebellion right there and then.
Yep. And you also have Captain, whatchamacallit, the one that played the bad guy in Last Crusade.
Julian Glover, General Veers.
Veers, yep, General Veers. And
Martin, Miss Martin Muses.
Mm-hmm.
She kind of worked with him for a weekend at some celebration. She was assisting him when he was there. She said he was the nicest guy she's ever met.
Well, it's English, so.
No ego whatsoever at all. He'd actually be a poor YouTuber, to be honest.
No, I'm a poor YouTuber because I got little ego. But yeah, I just caught on. They are reviewing Empire Strikes Back. You just caught on that we were reviewing Empire Strikes Back, eh, Damien? That's okay, bud. Which is funny because Ozzel, was pathetic in the Clone War. He was in the Clone Wars? One of the EU comics. The only reason Empire kept him around was because of his financial due to Ozzel belonging to a wealthy family. Well, so did which is the name? I did on my Valkorian page. He was a not Talon Card, Booster Tarek, or no, was it Tarek or Card? One of them had a wealthy family, but because Shizor wanted to buy their company and the family didn't want to, he ended up he ended up getting disgraced out of the Empire because his family, or Shizor, organized his brother for crashing into a museum, or an Imperial museum. One of the characters, but yes. I only bring it up because Shizor is actually in this movie, but not in this movie. And I'll explain later where he is, but not is, So they rush the evacuation, and we get the AT-ATs, or all-terrain assault transports. Rogue Squadron is outgunned by these walkers because of the heavy armor. And Luke's in-cockpit shot where he flies under the legs of one, that shot originally, in the original version, has a transparent cockpit. You could see through the entire cockpit. The special edition has them darken it up a little more. You could still see through it. However, later edition, they actually managed to touch it up even further, so they solidified the cockpit even more.
In the novelization, Veers dies. One of the snowspeeders flies into the cockpit of his walker. Kamikaze thing. So, yeah, the Empire Strikes Back novelization can't be canon because of that. Because Veers survives.
Because his walker took down the shield generator.
In the old Marvel Star Wars comics, I think they were S canon.
Mm-hmm.
They do not fit with the movies, or rather the rest of the EU, because Wedge crashes on Hoth, and there's a comic about his escape, and they kill Wes Jansen. Some space pirates, they torture him to death or something. But Wes Jansen is alive in the EU in the novels.
And also, Wedge is right with Luke before Luke takes off to go to Dagobah. Now, Han and Chewie decide to take Leia out of there, and C-3PO is like limping behind him. I love the line, "Hurry up, Goldenrod, you're going to become a permanent resident." But if it wasn't for 3PO ripping a tag off of one of those doors, well, the imps would have caught up to him a lot quicker. Now, let's see here. The Falcon ends up escaping. Luke ends up taking down an AT-AT. We don't really need to cover that much. Let's see here. The asteroid belt. Let's get to that. For a lot of you who don't know, the far pictures of the asteroids, some of the ones that were going by the screen, are potatoes. Easy, quick, and if I had a bat or one of the potatoes here from my bag of potatoes that I ate yesterday, I would have actually shown you how they could actually, at a distance, look like an asteroid. Now, this movie also did introduce the TIE bombers, which is later in the asteroid sequence. But also the scene where where Han turns around to attack the Star Destroyer, and you get the odds from C-3PO, and he tells him, "Never tell me the odds," was another thing that they expanded in the Star Wars universe. Corellians do not like hearing the odds because they will just defy them. Because they're that good. Star Wars turned Corellians into very... I
always thought they were like, and this ties back to the 40s and 50s.
Mm-hmm.
Biggles, the ace pilot, World War I pilot, even has the same gun as Han Solo. Yep. The Mauser broom handle is what they based Han's gun on.
Mm-hmm.
So he's based on a World War I fighter ace.
Nice.
Right? So, and Biggles was the shit back then. And they had those Saturday morning cereals, I think, with Biggles as well. So I'm thinking Lucas might have known about Biggles. Let's put it that way.
So we then get to the crash landing on Dagobah, where Luke is very pissed off that he crashed this damn thing, because I love that line. I'm sure it's perfectly safe for droids. Well, surprise, motherfucker. It ain't. He crashes into a swamp, and it's anything but hospitable because something tries eating R2 and ends up spitting them out. Now,
did they ever explain what kind of a creature that was?
No, they do not. I do not think they ever did.
Which, you know what? I'm fine with that, because
there's a little mystery.
You can't over-explain something too.
Exactly. And Yoda's design, from going by what audio commentary and other behind the scenes, was meant to be deceptive, to make him look the least like a Jedi. And they wanted him to basically be this wily creature that everyone else would discard except for the hero, because Lucas wanted to use the trope that Luke is the noble hero that helps this creature and ends up getting the magic that that this creature has. And what was the guy's name that Yoda...
Which actually is from mythology. You'll have someone, looking like a beggar or something, and everyone, shits on him, but then the hero actually, gives him an apple, or he's generous to him.
Yep.
And then it's like, ooh, I'm a princess, and I used magic to disguise myself, to find a true hero, or something like that. It's straight from mythology.
Also, Beauty and the Beast shows the more vengeful side of that scenario, that if you just automatically dismiss what is a much greater than you, well, they'll curse
Yep.
your ass. Also, didn't Dagobah have a lot of dark side? Yes, it's actually considered a Virgins of the Dark Side, because
Yeah, it's
Virginses are
Dark
not just
Side
people.
Nexus,
Yep,
where
Virginses are considered nexuses of Force energy.
which Yoda used to shield himself, or because it would cover his presence.
Yep, to hide his own presence in the Force.
They actually talk about that in Jedi Academy, the game.
Yep. Luke explains it to the other kid, Roth,
Yeah, it's when he talks about Biss, because
Yep.
he gets sent to Biss and says the dark side is strong there, and Yoda used the same thing to hide his presence on Dagobah or something.
Yep. Now, George Lucas wanted Yoda to be like a creature, but I already said that. Frank Oz was the puppet that the puppeteer for Yoda and did his voice. Jim Henson worked with Frank before and says he was the best in the business, so they worked to design Yoda, and Yoda's face is also designed after Stuart Freeborn, who was saying that Yoda was actually designed to look more like Irvin Kershner, except that it turned out to look a lot like a self-portrait of Stuart Freeborn. And C-3PO figures out the problem on the Falcon, which says the negative power coupling is polarized and that he'll have to replace it. Well, of course I'll have to replace it. Just dismissive of him, and then goes to Chewie, and he's like, Chewie, I think we're going to have to replace the negative power coupling. He says it quietly, but you do know that C-3PO actually hears him, because he turns around. He's like, you son of a bitch. There's a little green man. Look up a picture of Stuart Freeborn. You'll probably see the resemblance. Right. What did you think of which came first, Yoda or the Emperor scene? I'm trying to figure out.
Yoda or the egg?
Yeah.
He actually came out of an egg-like pod, didn't he? Space pod.
Yeah. So we also get the kiss between Han Solo. Han and Leia are basically, there is a romance that's building up in this, which is nice, but it's also not in your face too much until later, because, well, originally Han Solo was supposed to die in this film after he got put into carbon freeze.
The trip they take from the asteroid belt to Cloud City actually takes weeks.
Yep, that's another thing, because
something the movie didn't showcase well. It truly didn't. It just looks like they flew for a day.
A throwaway line explains that there was some time. Bespin, it's a little far, but I think we can make it.
Yeah.
However, it does take weeks.
Yeah, and Luke's training as well.
Yep.
Takes weeks. It's not just a few days learning how to jump or something. It takes time. But the movie did not showcase this well.
Yes, that is one of the
clear in the novel, but in the movie, if you don't know any better, it looks like a few days.
Mm-hmm. Now, a scene that George Lucas really likes is the scene where an asteroid hits one of the Star Destroyer's shield spheres, taking it out while he's talking with the other fleet captains, and you see one of the captains just they're there, and then they just go up like this and blink out. Basically, it's because of that Star Destroyer getting hit by the asteroid, because it also went into the bridge, that same asteroid.
And they had been taking, they mentioned that they've been taking, they've suffered a lot of damage.
Yep, considering the amount of damage.
Shields,
yep.
Because the shields will take care of some of it.
Yeah.
But then once the shield goes down and you get hit by a big one, you're done.
Yeah, take it easy, Riot. And then the Emperor commands contact with Vader, and one of the things he says, move the ship out of the asteroid field so we can send a clear transmission, which is actually explained in the EU. The Emperor killed people for poor transmission signals. He did that. So we get the scene between Vader and the Emperor. Now, the scene originally has a woman playing the Emperor with makeup on her face. Now, her name was Marjorie Eaton, and the voice was Clive Reville.
I knew that the voice was done by Clive something.
Yeah.
But
later iterations of the film, they put in Ian McDermott's version.
Yeah, and I think they added to the conversation a bit too, or altered something. But
yes.
You know what? Given what happens in Return of the Jedi and how the Emperor looks, that's a change I'm fine with.
Yeah.
Because that is a continuity change.
Yes, it's to fix continuity instead of keeping the discontinuity.
Yeah, like I said, the special edition of Empire Strikes Back, as far as I can tell, does no harm at all. It's only improvements.
Yep. The change
a little. There's some bits, but mostly it's great. And then you get the band and Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. The change in the dialogue, because I know this conversation inside out, is where the Emperor says, "We have a new enemy, the young boy who destroyed, or the young rebel who destroyed the Death Star. I have no doubt that this boy is the offspring of Anakin Skywalker." In which Vader replies, "How is that possible? Search your feelings, Lord Vader. You'll know it to be true. He could destroy us." And so they hatched a plan to try to turn Luke. Now, also another thing that a lot of people don't get, which the Clone Wars show that Filoni did absolutely destroyed Episode 3's time sense, is Episode 3 took place over weeks of time.
Yeah.
Not days, weeks.
There's a lot of space travel happening.
Yeah, there was 8 months pregnancy. She was 8 months at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
She was 9 months at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
People don't realize that, but fucking Filoni screwed that up by making it only a few days. And it's like, you dumb shit. Also, he screwed it up even further with Padme recycling clothes or reusing clothes. They never do that in Star Wars.
No, that is actually that is very true. Once they change an outfit, they never go back.
Mm-hmm. So her using the same outfit that she had when she confronted Anakin at the end of Episode 3, when they put that in the Clone Wars, it's like, no. But yeah. Also, this scene.
Technically, though, a character would change clothes and use something that he used before, but
it's not well established in Star Wars. Yeah,
it breaks a Star Wars rule, but not a logical rule, right?
Yeah, it's a Star Wars rule, but not a logical rule. That's a good quote. Also, in the scene between Vader and Palpatine, because I did say I would bring this up, Shizor from Shadows of the Empire is in Palpatine's presence during his call with Vader, or during his communique with Vader. He's wishing that Palpatine would just kill him because he wants to be Palpatine's second.
And Shizor is also seen at the pod race in Episode 1.
Yep, they have failing figures in the Boonta Eve.
Yeah, and Dash Rendar's ship is seen leaving Mos Eisley in Episode 4.
The Outrider, son of a bitch.
Yes. Yeah, it's when you see a wide shot of the streets of Tatooine, you see the Outrider leave in the distance.
I'm definitely going to be looking for that later today.
Added that for continuity because they were planning on doing an animated Shadows of the Empire. It never happened because they wanted it to be a true multimedia project.
Mm-hmm.
So it has a soundtrack, it has a video game, a comic, and a novel. And there was going to be an animated movie. but just didn't happen.
Yeah.
Sadly enough. But yeah, that and I think his droid is in one of the scenes as well in episode 4.
Hey, Christian, how you doing? Miss Martin Muses, how you doing? Shadows of the Empire is one of my all-time favorites. Steve Perry, good stuff. Yep. And so then we get to our Yoda showing up, and Yoda is a freaking pain in the ass, but he's doing this as a test to Luke. A lot of people just think that Yoda is a freaking annoying little imp in this. He's doing it to test Luke's patience.
You know what always struck me as funny?
Mm-hmm.
In countries where English isn't the first language and they dub the movies, because the English skills are poor and all that. Imagine the poor fellow who has to voice Yoda when the grammar is already off, trying to make sense of that.
I can't remember the term they used to describe his vernacular, but it's semi-backward vernacular, folks. Like found someone you have, I would say. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, or I would say you found somebody, instead he says found somebody, I would say you have.
Yeah. It's cool that he talks that way, though, because it makes him a bit unique.
Exactly.
But yeah,
his species was actually a few members of his species. I'm guessing it would have been more clannish, but Yaddle also spoke like that in the EU.
Yeah, and she was in some of the comics. She was kind of underused in the EU.
Very much. Sticking Orange Hat. I heard theories Darth Vader already knew about Luke being Anakin's son, but pretending that he doesn't know. Then he encounters Sidious. Opinions on the theory?
I think that was in the comics, the Star Wars Rebellion comics.
Yeah.
He found out through interrogating a rebel.
Yep. He was obsessed with finding out who he was because he's using a name that Vader knew very well.
Yeah, and he sensed that he was strong in the Force.
Yep. The Force is strong with this one.
Yep. So he became and I think he heard stories about the lightsaber as well, eventually.
Yep. Well,
fades for the rebels.
There was that book where they ended up on Mimban looking for the Kyber crystal, and they ended up having an engagement between him and with that lightsaber. And I believe it was, or Obi-Wan actually possessed Luke in order to win over Vader. Also, Leia picked up a saber to go after him too.
Well, that one was not canon, though.
They decanonized it.
Yeah, it was supposed to be canon if Star Wars Episode 4 had flopped. Mm-hmm. So you'd get a book that was the ending.
Yeah.
But the Rebellion comics that Alora and I reviewed on her channel, one of them had the bit where Vader found out about Luke.
Yeah, because it's actually in the Disney continuity. Boba Fett ends up telling him who Skywalker is, and he ends up almost crushing out the window on a Star Destroyer, which honestly doesn't make so much sense because, he could using the Force, but yeah. So the scene where he convinces them to go, and then you see R2 looking out into the hut in the rain, getting up on his tippy toes, and we learn that Yoda, this is the change between Yoda's demeanor where he's being silly and whatnot to when he gets deadly serious and starts talking to Obi-Wan is so freaking great. I cannot teach him.
I thought the change was similar to that, that famous scene where Christopher Reeve plays Superman, and he goes from Clark to Superman and then back again.
Mm-hmm.
But when he's about to tell Lois, and
Yeah.
you see the whole poise and all of it. It's just it changes.
Yep.
It's almost I think it's the best scene in the Superman movies actually, because the acting is tremendous, and I think they managed to channel something very similar with a puppet, which is even more impressive, isn't it?
Indeed, because they actually, you see him being wily, but then suddenly he's just so serious, and even Luke is taken aback from this because he then also hears Obi-Wan speaking to him, and it's like, Yoda. And one of the lines in the scene is actually used in episode 1. My own counsel will I keep on who is to be trained. Well, it's changed slightly. Our own counsel will we keep on who is ready. When Qui-Gon vouches for Kenobi to be ready for the trials. So when Yoda basically tells you a Jedi must have the deepest commitment, the most serious mind, and this one, a long time I have watched all his life, how he looked away to the future, to the horizon, never his mind on where he was, what he was doing. Meaning, from a distance, he's been watching Luke through the Force, been getting glimpses of him through the Force, of him looking off at the twin sunsets, always yearning for that adventure and excitement, which a Jedi does not crave. His father did, because he tells him, or Yoda knew about Luke's father. And yes, Anakin was always striving for excitement, which is why he wasn't the perfect Jedi. Well, also whole slew of other reasons. Now, the reveal of the Mynock and the Space Worm scene, what did you think of that one?
I like the Mynock thing because it's kind of it adds to the the fauna of Star Wars, and the Space Worm thing though is you can kind of tell it's a worm before you're supposed to, because like the cave's collapsing. I'm like, no, that's clearly a mouth. And I think those were created back in the Old Republic by a Zeltron Mandalorian as a bioweapon. If you read the Old Republic comics with what is it, Zane Carrick?
Yep.
Yeah. That's where they create them, but they lose control of them fast because they'll eat anything. So, well, this was retroactively added, of course, but we got their origin story, and it made, in my opinion, it made sense.
I thought, and also, folks, you see the size of the ship going out of it, and yet it's a hand puppet. It was a hand puppet reaching out to go after.
That's actually how I thought they did it. It's like a glove.
Yeah, it was basically like, I was like,
yep.
And that's about it.
It worked perfectly.
How do you feel about people's criticisms of quote unquote retcon the Qui-Gon being Obi-Wan's master when in the dialogue of Empire Strikes Back, Yoda taught Obi-Wan? Well, actually, he instructed, he didn't teach. And yes, there is teach and there is instruct. There is a difference, folks. An instructor is somebody who gives you basics, where somebody who teaches gives you more in-depth lesson.
Yeah, and like we see in episode 2, Yoda's teaching the youngling,
Younglings, exactly.
So
George Lucas, he prepared for it.
We're taught the basics by Yoda, which he also teaches Luke.
And he also, in episode 1, very early in the movie, he addressed it as well. But Master Yoda said I should be mindful of the future, but not at the expense of the moment. That also lets you know he had some instruction by Yoda. So when anybody ever says that is or that's a retcon, you just point out the scene or the opening scene to episode 1 and the youngling session in episode 2. They have no argument past that. And if they do, they're deluding themselves.
Yeah. Yoda teaches the younglings. He loves working with kids.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Truly wonderful the child of a mind is, because honestly, he understands that youth can often see things that adults overlook.
Yeah. Because adults will overthink sometimes.
Exactly. And that was one of the wonderful things in the episode 3 novel, is that Yoda and Mace Windu are having it out, and Obi-Wan, who is younger than both of them, ends up coming up with the right answer. And they both, they're like, this is why he is now a master.
Yeah.
And they actually, it was during the argument of how the Senate was going over to the Jedi Order was going to answer to the Chancellor instead of the Senate. Thanks, Orange Hat, for clarifying. I had always been confused with the line. You're very welcome, Jay Wood, or Jayworks. Very happy that I can help. LT is the best indeed.
Another scene that people claim is a retcon is Leia saying that she remembers her mother in episode 6. During that conversation, they are talking about force sensitivity, right?
Mm-hmm.
That it runs in the family and stuff. So that basically tells us in episode 3 retroactively that Leia sensed her mom and her sadness as she died.
Yep.
So it just tells us that, Leia's force sensitive.
Exactly. It only reinforces it because image is really feelings.
Yeah.
Not to mention, it could also, or people, when the OT was being made, people were able to come up with logical thoughts of what might be missing or what is not explained. People would basically come up with their own thoughts, which would most likely be true. Maybe her adoptive parents showed her an image of her mother at one time. Maybe she actually does remember seeing something and feeling something when her mom died, because they both started crying at when Padme died in the movie. Luke ends up bawling his head off in Obi-Wan's hands. That was by design, believe it or not. He wanted them to cry, to react to Leia's passing, because they could feel passing.
But it also has it connects Luke with Obi-Wan.
That as well.
Because Luke is in Obi-Wan's arms when he starts crying.
Hey, Mega Jetty, how you doing, buddy? I sent you a DM on Twitter for a thing that I was doing on Terminator. I wanted you to take a look at. The only issue I have with the prequels is the rushed death of Padme. It just doesn't line up with Leia remembering her mom. We just addressed that. I prefer the original Return of the Jedi novel that said she died raising Leia.
I agree that the death was rushed, though, because I mean, she lost the will to live right after she gave birth to 2 kids. I mean, where's the maternal instinct?
Exactly. That was something that is actually a lot of things that a lot of people disagree with. It's like, these children need you.
Yeah.
You're putting your love for Anakin over your children. These are Anakin's legacy. Wouldn't you want them to grow up?
Yeah.
Or want to see them grow up? I looked at Leia's situation as similar to Dune. Not exactly the same, but not so. Huh.
I get it, though. He wanted a Greek tragedy-ish thing. But it didn't work for me, that one. The fact that she died from a broken heart and just gave up when she'd just given birth to kids.
Now, there is broken heart syndrome. How that is an actual, it's not a quote-unquote proven medical diagnosis. However, the medical the the medical field actually does acknowledge that a person can, or those who, like, say your husband or your spouse dies and you die shortly after, like within 6 months, that's known as broken heart syndrome.
Yeah, it's stress levels and all kinds of stuff kicking in. So usually it's a heart attack, isn't it, or a stroke?
That too.
Yeah, that's actually what kills them, but they call it a broken heart thing.
Yep. There's also postpartum depression that may have fed into it. Not in this case. She showed a little bit of joy when Luke was born, so I don't think it was. I don't think it was it was postpartum depression. But yes, that can also be a factor to some people. Yeah, I can buy into her dying of a broken heart when Leia is 3 to 4 years old, having a dictating husband and forced to raise one of the children in secret, and her world uprooted, but the timing was wrong. Yeah.
So she would have bailed on her husband?
Yep.
A side note, Bail Organa was mentioned in the old Star Wars comics as early as, I think it was 79. Nice. So he was always there.
Yep.
So fans knew about Bail Organa when he showed up in the, well, not everyone. Nobody knows everything, but the fans of the old comics and stuff that were anticipating the prequels and looking for all kinds of information, they would have known Bail Organa is Leia's stepdad.
Yep. And also, one of the things that they cover quite cleverly in Rise of Darth Vader, the sequel book to Revenge of the Sith, is that Bail is freaking out when Vader turns up on Alderaan because he has Leia there. He does not want Vader near Leia because he fears he might feel the connection between him and Leia. Because according to Anakin, who Vader who Bail knows is indeed Anakin, he fears that he will feel Leia's sensitivity in the Force. Luckily, however, thanks to R2-D2, that doesn't happen because R2 scares the shit out of Leia while she and the Queen are on the way. Padme's death should have been off-screen, though I personally would have preferred she faked her death and hid after Return of the Jedi so that after Vader and Sidious died, she would reunite with her grown children. That's an interesting concept. But getting back to the movie, Luke's training where he learns the difference between the lights or the dark and the light, how the dark is quicker, easier, more seductive, and the cave sequence. This, according to Irvin Kershner, him taking his weapons means that Luke is still weak. George Lucas says that while the Force is inside you, it is also reflective of you and what is around you. Luke bringing in the weapons made it so he would have to fight. It is a metaphor of the potential of being your own worst enemy. What did you think of the cave sequence with Luke fighting himself as Vader?
It foreshadows the ending of Return of the Jedi. If he fights Vader aggressively and kills him, he will become Vader. Which is, we see perfectly executed in Return of the Jedi when Luke goes berserk on Vader and chops off his hand. And then he looks at his own prosthetic hand and then Vader's stump and he's realizing, I'm becoming Vader.
Yep.
So, and that's when he goes, yeah, fighting will basically turn me into Vader. So he turns off the lightsaber and says, no.
Never. Yep. And yes, actually, this was a case of broken heart syndrome. It doesn't always attribute to spouses. That scene is awesome, though as a kid, it made no sense to me. Yeah, a lot of kids don't. One of the things that Lucas actually did in this movie and in Return of the Jedi, he consulted a number of doctors and psychologists, especially children's psychologists, asking would they be able to accept what they are seeing on the screen when Vader drops the big truth bomb on Luke when and other thing, I can't remember what the other thing was, but he asked basically a bunch of them saying, or the hand getting cut off, they would find that traumatic, yes, but him getting a new hand at the end would actually heal that trauma before it could even develop. So Lucas had to look into a lot of things while making this movie. Now we then get the bounty hunter scene. And folks, on my Valkorion page, you see I address every one of these bounty hunters with and what they were doing before they got brought to Vader and after in their pursuit of Han Solo and the Falcon. Boba Fett is a real fucking prick to a lot of these bounty hunters because he sabotages a lot of their ships so that he can win that prize. So yes, the Jason Wingreen was the voice of the original Boba Fett. Jeremy Bulloch played him, and the Falcon outmaneuvering Captain Nita when they finally had him from the Star Destroyer Avenger, which was the priority signal that you hear Captain Nita taking after he called a bunch of bounty hunter scum. And I believe Bosk was outright ready to, he's like, you better watch your fucking mouth, boy. Because that's essentially what he's saying. He's like, scum are we? Is basically what he was saying in his own language, is what Bosk was saying. He was basically talking to Piet.
Bosk was criminally underused in the EU.
Mm-hmm.
It was in the Bounty Hunter Wars trilogy, and I think he had a short story in one of the Tales books.
Yep.
Other than that, he was barely in it at all.
In Legacy, I believe, in Legacy, he comes across, no, it's either Legacy or New Jedi Order where he comes across Han after Chewbacca died.
Oh, New Jedi Order. I recently reread that one. It's the fourth one.
Yeah,
Han starts a bar fight with Bosk.
Because Bosk ended up taunting him about losing his Wookiee.
Yep.
And it makes sense. It would make better sense for it having it in New Jedi Order because it's more fresh, or the loss is more fresh. Was inspired by the character, the man with no name. Nice.
Maybe too much Boba Fett because his mystery got, taken away too much. He's still a badass and one of my favorite characters, but some mystery would be good. And then maybe have Bosk be the bounty hunter in a book or two, right?
Yeah, that would have been. They actually, a lot of people wanted more Bosk, so that is why Filoni decided to do the extensions on Bosk and have him more present in his shows.
He spoke English too.
Yeah, and it's like, they don't usually speak English.
Nope.
They were most exclusively speaking their own language. My favorite scene after the bounty hunter scene is the Dagobah X-Wing raising, where Luke is learning to use the.
Did you find that scene uplifting, perhaps?
Very much.
Elevating to watch.
Very much.
Not so much bogged down.
Look at Mr. Frickin' Pun King over here. I do miss
yodeling over that.
So yeah, the unlearn what you have learned. A lot of people don't understand that line. It's basically meaning to unlearn what you have always been taught about reality around you. But with the Force, you can break through those realities to actually do more than what you were taught. So unlearning what you learned is exactly what that means. Hey, Adiga, good to see you. And after Luke fails and we get Yoda's speech about about the Force, it does sort of reflect Obi-Wan's take, but also gives his own. luminous beings are we, not this crude matter. You must feel the force around you, between you, me, the tree, the rock, everywhere, even between the land and the ship. Meaning it is literally everywhere, folks. So that is one of the best scenes. And when Luke tells him, you want the impossible. Well, Yoda does the impossible and lifts that bastard right out, sets it down. And he tells him straight out, I don't believe it. That is why you fail. Because Lucas, which this was taken greatly out of context, Lucas does say that there is a small folks, element of belief in the Force. Yes, it does require sensitivity, but simply believing in it does not make you Force sensitive. Which, unfortunately, dumbasses like Rian Johnson thought that's exactly what it meant. Forget what you know, learn something new, and expand your abilities and knowledge. Unlearn what you have learned. That's how I have always looked at it. Exactly. That is exactly what it means. And you do punch too? MJ, maybe? Nice. So, Captain Needa decides to fly over to Lord Vader and apologize. And it's like, okay, you honestly don't understand Lord Vader that well, because Vader kills him. And it's like, wow. I mean, seriously.
Vader killing a lot of those officers, Ozzel aside, he actually killed a lot of really competent people.
Oh, yes.
One damn mistake, which I think in the long run might have harmed the Empire.
That is actually something that his grandson would later reflect on, except he also would give into it at one time, too. At least he accepted his apology. You're right. Apology accepted, Captain Needa. Get this trash out of here. Which I absolutely love how people freaked out in that one Vader comic that shows the Vader slaughtering that woman that was obsessed with him. Yes, it was a Disney comic, and I didn't read it, but I caught somebody else covering it, and people were pissed off because he said, "Get this trash out of my quarters."
Yeah, it probably triggered his memories about Padme as well.
Well, so very much so. Not only that,
react with rage.
Yeah, not only that, this woman is seeing him with his helmet off. Even Piet knew to turn his look or to turn away if he saw Vader without his helmet, which is seen in the movie, where he looks away like this, and then when Vader's is turning around, he comes forward. So yeah. Falcon was hiding on the back of the bridge of the Star Destroyer. I love the meme that they put where it shows Palpatine and Vader looking out the viewport. Just let them go. This is way too embarrassing. I mean, that is all over the internet, but it's funny. But this is actually something that Boba anticipated because of Episode 2, which Lucas actually covers. It's reverse engineering that scene, so to speak. And then they get tracked to Bespin, which is when Luke has visions in the Force.
You know what they should have done?
Mm-hmm.
When they attached himself to the Star Destroyer, right?
Mm-hmm.
They should have, drilled a hole into the Star Destroyer and emptied all their toilets and stuff in there. Just flushed it in and then left. That
would have been so freaking.
Yeah, Vader getting Han and Chewie's shit inside the filter of his mask and stuff.
Mm-hmm. You're bad. Vader was unpredictable. Every death movement.
Shit, it gets in everywhere.
Yeah. Every death movement, quote, only adds to his fearsome character. That is a very good way of doing it, or describing Vader. Vader killing his employees was A, to show people how much he is to be feared, and B, they were mostly done in Empire because he's determined to get Luke and everyone is botching it up. Yeah, that is pretty much it. So Luke's friends, or the urgency of whether to help his friends, his impatience. Yoda tells him, if you leave now, help them you could, but you would destroy all for which they have fought and suffered. A lot of people would be like, well, isn't that the point? To save them from suffering. But if you honor what they fight for, you are respecting them more, is essentially what Yoda is saying. Always in motion is the future. The future is always in motion. We then get Cloud City. The extended fly into the city, where they show them flying through the city and then landing, was done very well. And Irvin Kershner wanted to use the steam venting off the Falcon to let you know that the ship is kind of not alive, but to give more of a living feeling to the ship, because it is a character in itself. And Billy D. Williams, who played Lando brilliantly. I mean, this is a person who was Han Solo before Han Solo joined the rebellion, is how they best describe him. Also, the reason why everybody was smiling so much in that scene was because they all got drunk the night before and were hanging out with the Rolling Stones. No joke. According to Carrie Fisher in the commentary. So what do you think of C-3PO getting shot up, or shot when he found the imps, as well as his inability to go down steps?
When I was a kid, I always thought it was Boba Fett that shot him. For some reason.
Honestly, I thought it was Yoda who shot him. When I was a kid, because the thing that "who are you" almost sounds like Yoda, and I'm like, what? I never understood it until later on. But yeah, also, folks, you will never see C-3PO going downstairs in the original trilogy because he physically can't. Even in the Episode 3 movie, when you see him going down some stairs, that's digital.
Yeah, Anthony Daniels fell over quite a few times. I saw a blooper or something. Natalie Portman lost it. They were doing a scene, and then 3PO just keeled over with a smash.
He fell, busting up some of the set dressing, and they look and they're like, "Oh my god!" Those beautiful shots, fantasy meets science. Billy D. Williams is an amazing, smooth guy to meet. He's genuine and a very nice. Oh, seriously, J Works Productions met Billy D. Williams. That's cool.
Billy D. is so damn underrated as an actor.
Indeed,
he will be remembered for Lando.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I've seen him in a lot of other 80s and 70s stuff. The guy is great, and he is incredibly versatile as well.
Another good movie that he was criminally underused in was Batman '89. A lot of people don't realize that Harvey Dent was actually a black man.
Yep, and nobody cried about it.
No,
because it wasn't done for virtue signaling.
Exactly. So Luke can't keep the vision out of his head, and even Obi-Wan can't compare. Now, folks, this is how Lucas discusses the "there is another" line, is that Luke was originally meant to be expendable. There is a chance he would die. So yes, there is the other, which is Leia, that could step up if need be.
You know what, though? I know it's meant to be Leia, but in my opinion, it could be Anakin.
That as well.
Because in the end, it is Anakin that kills the Emperor, right?
Yep, it is Anakin waking up.
Luke's sense is good in him. I bet you Yoda kind of knows some things too, because he can see possible futures.
Yep.
So, and Return of the Jedi could be interpreted as the return of Anakin as a Jedi.
Well, not only that, but Yoda does cue that he didn't expect that, or that Vader would tell him. Unexpected this is, and unfortunate.
So the other hope is Leia.
Yes.
You know, but I think it would have fit even better if it actually was Anakin.
Mm-hmm.
Because that would foreshadow the ending.
Exactly.
Because Luke actually fails at defeating the Emperor.
Mm-hmm.
He succeeds at not falling to the dark side, but he fails at defeating Palpatine.
Yep.
You know?
Now, let's see here. We then see Chewie finding C-3PO in the junk pile. IG-88B, who was on the Star Destroyer with their other bounty hunters, is in that junk pile as well.
Which means that EU story is canon because it is referenced in the fucking movie.
Yep. He's laying straight by or right next to the incinerator, his pieces.
Yeah.
IG-88A or A, C, and D are all pissed off about this too. But IG-88A literally is not too worried about it because he has a greater prize other than what B was doing, because he also, while B was on the Executor, he downloaded everything about the Death Star too. Essentially, IG-88A was the second Death Star, or was inside the second Death Star's computers. Apparently, he also fired off the first shot at the Rebel fleet in the movie. Because I actually put out a question on that with my Valkorian page. But anyway, there were a scene where Luke is pulling out a snake. Did you know that he actually got bit by that snake?
No.
Yep, he actually got bit by the snake. They have it in Empire of Dreams where he's pulling it out and the thing bites him and he's like, fucking bit me. And apparently Mark Hamill is actually deathly afraid of snakes. So he's like, I am not pulling this damn thing out, you do it. But the scene where it didn't bite him is the one that they use in the film. Originally Luke was meant to have a sister, but Lucas didn't intend Leia to be that sister. That was a last minute thing. I do believe that was also, yeah. Don't you know? Rey is the other one. Yeah. Netcat. So, a lot of people don't catch this. When Han Solo is being tortured and Chewie is also being tortured with the sound, that is meant to send shockwaves through the Force to get Luke to Bespin. That is part of the trap. Because, as Han says, they didn't even ask me any questions. Did you pick up on that when you watched the movie?
On what?
Where when they are torturing Han and you see Chewie reacting to the sound that they're blaring in to him, that was meant to send waves through the Force that Luke would pick up on.
Yeah, they were basically harming them, so Luke would sense their distress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you pick up on it when you watched it?
I didn't know the sound thing was part of it, though. I thought it was just like an alarm thing that drove Chewie nuts because it stopped.
Yeah. They were doing it simply to make him uncomfortable.
Yeah, I knew the Han torture was to alert Luke, and it was basically part of the trap.
And what a lot of people don't realize this, you know this because you have that expanded guide, the same one that I have. Vader originally ordered C-3PO's remains to be destroyed. However, Anakin's memories triggered, and he then ordered the remains to be given over to Chewbacca, which was uncharacteristic, which was noted by the Imperial, who ended up being ordered to do so. So,
why did he do that, though?
He remembers that it was he remembers the droid he created.
But he doesn't realize it's the exact same droid.
Oh, he does. He knows it, or he actually does know it is this is 3PO. Because apparently he learned from from them that this is a droid that was given over to Leia and that it goes by C-3PO. And it's like, give this over to the Wookiee. They're like, sir, don't question it, just do it. Basically.
That bit I didn't know. I just always assumed that Lando was the one who got them the droid.
It's in your the black book with Vader's helmet on the front of it, the big thick one. The information is in there.
Oh, the
expanded guide.
Yeah, I think I have it. It has Vader on and it has a black and red background.
That's the bigger one that included Filoni's taint, but yes, you also have, or I know that you also have the other one, the original version of it.
The one I have is from it's the one before Filoni.
Oh, well then yes, that is the one that I'm talking about.
Yeah, I don't remember everything in it.
He should know. He's the only gold-plated protocol droid in the galaxy ever, or every other is silver or some other color. That is interesting to know. Hey, Price is Right. Good to see you. So they decide to test the carbon freezing chamber on Solo. Originally, it was supposed to kill him. And this scene is emotional, folks. When when Chewie flips and is like, this is not going to happen, essentially, and he just starts slaughtering troops, tossing them around and whatnot. Vader stops Boba Fett from killing him because Boba Fett was ready to add another freaking Wookiee pelt to his shoulder strap there. But it is like, oh my God, you got to understand that Wookiees, when they are indebted to somebody and also are friends with them, loyalty is something that is very keyed into their entire way of life.
Yeah, it's almost a fanatic.
Exactly. Fun fact, David Prowse, Vader actor suit, was given different lines where he dubbed James Earl Jones' confession. Yup. I was just about to get to that during the whole fight scene. So they end up freezing him. Also, the I love you, I know is improvised because they were late for lunch. Did you know that?
I'm late for lunch?
Or they were late for lunch shooting the film. And they're like, we need to get this line, so just don't even think about it, just do it. And when she says, I love you, and he says, I know, Irvin Kershner's like, that's it, good, cut, we're going to lunch. Because they had already done 30 minutes over the lunch hour when they were shooting the film. Now, we then get Luke arriving at Cloud City, and that the trap is baited. And Lando betrays the Empire because, well, he was getting the stiff end of the rod anyway. Vader was altering the deal every time. Now, it's good to see a little Wookiee rage in this film, especially when Lando undoes Chewie's binders and Chewie's just choking the hell out of him. What did you think of that scene?
Well, Wookiee rage.
Yep.
However, I thought Chewie was a bit hasty with that because Lando's obviously helping them.
Yep. Well, he did, or he reacted on feelings, let's just say that.
Yeah.
Now we also get the fight between Vader and Luke. Vader is testing Luke, much like Yoda did. He knows that Luke is exceptionally outclassed, but he does acknowledge that he received a lot of training. But his point is not to kill Luke. He is there to turn Luke. And yes, he knows this is his son, but according to George Lucas, his motives are entirely selfish. It isn't his son that he wants. It is his son's power. He wants his son to turn so he can kill the Emperor.
Yep.
At this point, Anakin is not waking up yet. Maybe a tiny bit because of memory, but he is still ambitious that he wants the memory, or he wants the throne for himself.
He's faltering. And another thing to keep in mind is in Empire and Return of the Jedi, Vader is not in his prime. His body is failing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
the suit was supposed to be upgraded, but never was.
Yeah, and I think that's why he's in that little meditation breathing chamber as well. He is he's kind of dying. The body isn't sustaining him anymore.
Now there is a bit of a contradiction to this in Shadows of the Empire, because I remember reading that book and reading that he's in his meditation sphere, the chamber, and he takes off all of his armor and he's able to breathe unaided as he gives into the light side of the Force. And for only a few seconds, he's actually able to be Anakin. But however, his motives to want to turn Luke, it does kind of contradict that.
Yeah.
He does awaken when Luke refuses to join and is willing to fall to his death rather than join his father. Yes, that is the beginning of where he actually does start to, Anakin does start to stir, so to speak. But actually at the end, when the Falcon escapes, is when he is truly out of character.
And also Luke is doing what he couldn't.
Yeah. Which is...
so
turn away from the dark side.
He kind of could have had a little proud father moment.
Yeah. Now,
but that's just well, it's not even a theory. It's just me musing. But
there is, or we all know the famous line that when he says, "No, I am your father," that was only given to James Earl Jones. The line that David Prowse was given was Obi-Wan killed your father.
Yeah.
And even James Earl Jones,
which would have been a half truth anyway, which would have fit the story, because a certain point of view.
Yep. And even James Earl Jones was shocked by this. It's like, he's lying. He can't be serious. But again, George Lucas consulted the psychologist, and it's like, even they may not believe what Vader said, but they will understand the hand trauma of Luke losing his hand. And what was the other thing I wanted to... Or one of the great parts about the fight between Vader and Luke was after Vader or Luke gets blown out the window and gets back up and is going back in, you see how they do it with the camera, where Vader takes a swing when he's starting to get more serious and aggressive towards him. He is towering over Luke.
Yeah, he's basically he starts off light, and actually praising Luke a little bit, and impressive, blah blah blah, and then he starts upping the difficulty for Luke. He's basically testing his skill all through the fight. So it's not a duel. It is part of the trap.
Yeah.
And by frustrating Luke, he will be making Luke more and more angry as well, which is prone to slipping towards the dark side.
Yep. Also,
it's similar taunts to what happens in Return of the Jedi.
Yep. Also, I found this out during the commentary. Irvin Kershner, folks, is responsible for one of the greatest mischaracterizations of stormtroopers, and that is their inaccuracy. He wanted them you can't always shoot at the heroes and hit them, so instead I decided to make them wildly inaccurate. And it's like, You son of a bitch. You're the reason why everybody thinks they can't shoot worth a shit.
Yeah, because I see a lot of people use that, that scene on the Death Star when a bunch of them shoots at Han and everyone misses.
They're
stormtroopers are inaccurate. They're ordered to miss. They literally say it. That they let us go. And this is actually foreshadowed earlier when Kenobi says that stormtroopers are really precise. Yep. So if you keep that in mind and watch when they miss Han, the audience should go, something's off about this. They should be hitting, shouldn't they?
Yep.
Right? We were already told that they were precise. And we see them be precise as well. They kill all the Jawas and a bunch of rebels at the beginning. All of a sudden, they can't hit Han with, 50 shots.
Right?
So, I mean, come on, people, pay attention to the movie. They literally said they let them go on purpose. You can't let them go on purpose if you kill them.
Well, this, to address Mega Jetty here, they actually wanted Luke to get a scoring glance on Vader in order to show that, or to have Vader lose his patience. To show that Anakin had a lot of, or that Vader had a lot of anger. Because what happens? He gets hit, he fucking flips, and basically goes right after Luke's, or lops off the hand.
It's not about
it was more of an impulsive act.
It's not about joining me anymore. It's about doing damage. And then once he does the damage, he's back to join me. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, sure, I'll join you. You just chop my hand off. What a great idea.
Yeah. So after the hyperdrive is fixed and the Falcon escapes with Luke. Oh, before we get there, the scene with Lando rescuing Luke from the bottom of Cloud City, Luke also reaching out to Leia through the Force, that tells a lot of people maybe she is also able to feel the Force. Because
she is. Because we've seen it once before, and it was Luke and Kenobi in the Death Star trench.
Yep.
Right? So Force sensitives talks to Force sensitives telepathically if they have a link. And now we know that Leia can do it.
Yep. So when Lando peeks his head out of the top of the Falcon, that's actually a little G.I. Joe doll meant to look like Lando, folks. So that's a nice little tidbit there. But when they escape, instead of Vader slaughtering everybody on the bridge, what does he do? He walks away because Piet was fully expecting to get his. He was fully expecting to die.
I think Vader knew this time it was his fault.
Yep.
Because he failed at, capturing Luke.
Yep. Also some changed dialogue in the original Empire Strikes Back when Vader is walking out of Cloud City, he says, "Bring me my shuttle." Where in the newer releases of the special edition, it's "Alert my Star Destroyer to prepare for my arrival." It's like, okay.
I always keep thinking it's the shuttle thing. So, I probably watched the old ones way more.
Mm-hmm. So then we get to the end where Luke is getting synth skin and an artificial hand, which was by design that he would have one look more human, because Anakin losing his hand in the prequels was actually by design, was planned as he was writing episode 1. He knew that Anakin would eventually lose his hand, and it would be it wouldn't have skin. It would only have, or it would be more robotic, to show how technology has advanced over the years. So this is stuff George Lucas's pre-planning is insane.
Another thing is it showcases Anakin having lost a part of his humanity.
That as well. I believe that's in the episode 2 visual dictionary, the White Book.
I've never read that.
Well, then you learned something, or your thoughts basically mirrored that page. Also, didn't Vader have some respect towards Admiral Piet? he did warn him. He told him, "Don't fail me again, Admiral," and Admiral Piet knew or knows what happens to people who fail him. However, at this point, he was too distraught at losing Luke because this was a plan that the Emperor gave him a command or confirmed the command. We can turn him.
Plus, in this case, it wasn't Piet who failed.
Exactly, it was Vader.
It would have been fun if he just started choking himself on the bridge.
Right. It's like so good. But yeah, so we then get the ambiguous and no dialogue ending where the Falcon flies off with Lando at the helm to search for
the siblings united.
Yep.
That's symbolic as well.
Mm-hmm. So, out of 10, what would you score Empire Strikes Back?
10.
All right.
It delivers on everything it's trying to do perfectly.
All right. Me, everybody knows I do the 3-tier objective, subjective, and moviegoer. Objectively, folks, without bias, without my bias in it, the movie does have its small little goofs in here and there. Also, a small little bit of writing issue from an objective standpoint. This movie would be about an 8 or an 8.5.
My only complaint about it is it wasn't showcased at all that the trip from the asteroid field to Bespin took weeks, and
that is also
trained. And that Luke trained for weeks. That's my only gripe in this whole movie. But
that goes to the writing because it's not thoroughly explained in the script.
Yeah, and not that we absolutely needed to know this to fully understand the story.
Yeah.
So it's only vital if you start to question it and want more. But if you're just watching the movies, it's not vital at all.
Yeah. So or 8.5 objectively. Subjectively, I love this movie. It is a 10 out of 10. And moviegoer, where I don't break it down, I go based on entertainment value alone. This movie keeps my ass in the seat the entire way through. I don't even get up to go to the bathroom. So yes, this movie is a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I do the same when I'm watching it. I just sit in the chair and shit myself.
I hold it, but okay. But yeah, so
no, I just hear it, let it flow through you. And I'm like, okay, immersion time.
Yeah. So, folks, that is going to lead to the end of the mystery review. The first hint for next week's mystery review, as at the beginning of this stream, I told you if there's a number in the hint, it is referring to the playlist. This one, the hint for next week is a prequel to 71. So if you know the playlist, search out the playlist. You'll know exactly what this is. A very direct hint that I usually do not give. So
it's not Return of the Jedi, is it?
No. No. 71 is an episode of the mystery review.
Which movie was it?
I cannot say because it would automatically give it away. But I will give more hints throughout next week. Look for me tonight on the Barroom Podcast on Society Reviews channel, where we'll be discussing all sorts of insanity, especially the Mila Kunis thing as the thing.
Oh, that one has been debunked.
Well, I'll make sure to bring it up then.
No, she said it.
Yeah,
she said it's not true.
I did see something about that, so chances are we'll still discuss it. But
so it's literally not a thing.
Okay, good. I caught that. And also
rock solid evidence.
Yeah. And also stay tuned every Sunday where I do my Infinity Saga Sundays. Next week will be Captain America, the First Avenger. Wink, wink. I'll explain that after. But yeah, thank you to Neozoic, J-Works Productions, Mega Jetty. Who else? We had Riot Kitty, Galadorn 2, Price is Right Review. Who else? Adiga, Netcat, Christian Freights. Thank you guys for showing up. Rick, I know it was in here. Riot Kitty, Miss Martin Muses. Thank you for showing up. Davian Donaldson, thank you for showing up. Jason Fox from 540 Studio. He said hello to his fellow Norwegian earlier. And Happy Dino 8000.
I missed that one. I didn't know there was another Norwegian.
Yep.
Well, this is getting out of hand. Now there are two of them.
Yeah. Dadman Walking 55, thank you for tuning in. NB Bar and Grill, thank you for tuning in. And I believe that is. And Vanya, always first in and out, or first in and out last. Thank you for tuning in. Always a pleasure. Everybody have a wonderful day. I'll see you tonight. You can also catch me on Odin's movie or OMB Reviews' live stream tonight where he covers topics. I'll be modding the chat there, so behave. Anyway, folks, thank you to Stig for joining.
Oh, thank you for having me on. It's actually fun to be on and promote fun entertainment rather than bashing it.
Indeed.
Maura and I have been, we're on this, Jade Shadow.
Yep.
We do the top 10 lists and stuff. That is for this very reason, promoting stuff we like and promoting alternative entertainment. You don't have to watch stuff just because it's new.
Yep.
There's plenty of great stuff from back in the day. And, if you haven't seen it, it counts as new content, doesn't it? I mean, I'm currently watching The Rocketeer for the first time. I never seen
great movie.
Yes,
let me know.
Let
me know your thoughts on that. Let me know your thoughts on that when you're done. So, also, me and Mara do ones and twos, which you'll be joining us in July for the Jaws movies because I know Jaws is your favorite.
Yeah, all-time favorite movie, Jaws 1.
Yep. So, yeah, folks. The last 2 weeks of May is when Mara and I will be doing ones and twos on her channel. We're doing. Has she revealed it yet?
No.
Well, then I'll leave it to her to reveal. So, yep, alrighty, that is going to be the end. Y'all have a wonderful day, and always remember, stay humble.